Hi, my name's Anthony, and on today's video, we're going to be going over the Dung Beetle Knight. Now, since this is an overview, we're going to be going over some of the story elements, so if you're not into that, watch out. The Dung Beetle Knight is a Quarry 4 monster, which means you're not going to need a handy-dandy flowchart to replace anything because it's just going to be added after the level 3. Which, yes, it does mean that this guy is really difficult. And we were actually able to talk to Adam Poots about this, the creator of Kingdom Death, on why this guy is so damn hard.
At the time, the playtester I had working with that, he was cheating. So it got tuned to be way too strong. And when I found out that he was kind of like re-rolling things and flubbing and like, not really being completely accurate, I was like, what are you doing? And he looked at me, he was like, people are gonna play like this, and you said you wanted to be hard, right? So we have to find that sweet spot. I was like, well, it's kind of too late to detune it, so I guess he's just gonna hit like a fucking truck. That's it, out he goes.
Now, hopefully that didn't dissuade you, because this guy is actually a ton of fun. His story is also incredibly sad, just like a lot of the monsters. He's just a guy that's just rolling his ball. This guy was just a lowly beetle that found the phoenix's droppings and started eating them, rapidly progressing him into this monster of sorts. However, one day the phoenix left, and its food became protected by the Flower Knight. The beetle then had to emulate the Flower Knight to be able to not incur the wrath of the guardians so he could continue to eat. Now, if you haven't seen the Dung Beetle before, you might notice that I have two different models in front of me. One is the Dung Beetle Knight and the other is the Resin Ball. These models essentially mean that you're gonna have two different obstacles to kind of watch out for in your fight. Now, the first thing I wondered when I first saw this expansion is, damn, this is gonna be a lot of head keeping, and it's gonna be a lot to keep track of since now I have two damn things I need to fucking watch out for. However, they made it incredibly simple to keep track of the Resin Ball and essentially make it part of the Dung Beetle in a really neat way. Essentially, the Dung Beetle's attacks are going to involve using its sword or pushing you back, or using its Resin Ball to fling around, hit you, everybody around, push it away, and it's really cool. It really gives this monster a lot of flavor, and it's a really, really fun fight. Now, in terms of fighting this guy, it's actually super interesting. He has a bunch of different traits, however, the one that I do want to highlight is called Separation Anxiety. Separation anxiety means that if the Resin Ball is a certain amount of spaces away from it, it's not going to be able to attack with a specific attack, meaning that you're essentially weakening it by separating it from the Resin Ball. However, since you are on the monster's terrain, he does have prepared tunnels, meaning he can do a ground pound and send vibrations all around the arena, and those vibrations push the Resin Ball towards the Dung Beetle Knight, which is super cool. Additionally, if you're next to him when he does the ground pound, you're going to take some damage. Now, this guy and the Resin Ball do hit like a damn truck. The ball is there to push you out of the way, break some of your items, and just completely mess up your formation. And the Dung Beetle Knight is going to do 2-3 attacks at a time, and possibly even 10. For example, the grab and pummel card, he's going to grab you and attack you 10 different times, which is crazy. And because he has a network of tunnels, he can burrow, meaning that he can go underground and pop up right under you, dealing damage to you, and just completely placing him in different sections, just moving around and just completely messing you up. This guy has a way of hitting you really hard and being incredibly mobile. But remember, he is weakened if you are able to separate him from his Resin Ball. The cool thing is that you can interact with his Resin Ball to help push it away from him. You can spend an action and move it 1d5 spaces away from him. This can be incredibly useful, knowing if he has an attack coming and then pushing the ball out of the way, making that attack just pretty much useless, which is kind of neat. Now, what you really need to watch out for is one of his trait cards, which is Power Forward and Baller. Again, this can be negated if his ball is not near him. However, this is going to happen every single turn before any of his attacks. He's going to target the stinkiest survivor. He's going to perform Baller, which means he's going to fling his ball all around him, so if you're anywhere near him, you're going to take some damage. And then he's going to throw the ball right at you, dealing 5 damage. And depending on his level, it's how many hit locations it's going to hit. Afterwards, he's going to move right back to his ball where he can finally use his AI deck to actually do an attack. He's also got trait cards like Smell World, where he's just going to envelop you in his ball. And if you manage to escape, then you're going to have another trait card called Dung Milk, which is going to give you negative accuracy and make you stinky, making you a better target for the Power Forward. Essentially, just try to take care of him as quickly as you can, because the more stink tokens you get, the worse it's going to be for you. Not to mention the trait card Heavy Load, which means every time you get hit by the Resin Ball, you're going to lose a survival. So we know that his attacks suck, but don't worry, his hit locations suck as well. This guy has so many damn super dense hit locations, so if you have anything that can break, just don't even bother taking them because they're going to break damn near the first time you attack him. He does have several of these Century Carapaces, which is actually super cool. It does give him +6 toughness to when you hit him. However, if you do hit him with a pickaxe, a club, hammer type of thing, you do gain +2d10 strength to hitting that location if you're using those weapons, which is super cool. Now, depending on the level, he may do burrow right after, and when you hit this, it's not going to do any damage to him. And the cool thing, or the not cool thing, is when he does his basic action and does his defensive spit valve, he's just going to bring those hit locations right back to his hit location deck. His first target is also going to be knocked down survivors, so he's just going to knock you down with his ball, run towards you, and just start beating the shit out of you. Now, like I said at the beginning, the Dung Beetle story is kind of depressing. The Dung Beetle Knight is on his own, wandering around for food, continuously pushing this heavy ball around him in a Sisyphean way, which is kind of honorable. In the settlement story, a survivor wakes up by a low rumbling noise and goes to investigate, only to see this dung beetle pushing up a hill and continuously failing and pushing even harder until they achieve it, and they just get enamored with it, which actually, doing all that, you get a new innovation, which is actually kind of cool. The roundstone training has a lot of positive, with of course a 1 being nothing at all and you just get a disorder. However, the other things are super cool. You get fighting arts and secret fighting arts if you get a pretty good roll, which are really cool. However, there is an additional story after you defeat the dung beetle. Once you've defeated the beetle, 2 lantern years afterwards, you'll have Secret Meeting. Secret Meeting is incredibly touching. You'll have a young survivor stumbling upon the beetle, and the beetle is just incredibly friendly to it. The dung beetle explains that he's in pain and he's losing his memories. But playing with a young survivor brings him comfort and reminds him of his old life. That survivor then gains the secretive disorder. Later down the line, if that survivor is still alive, or if somebody has a secretive disorder, the dung beetle comes back and meets up with the survivor, bringing him a gift, a pile of shit. He makes the survivor eat it, and the survivor actually gains a bunch of bonuses, which is super cool. However, the dung beetle explains to the survivor that the survivor will need to kill him since he's almost gone. Congratulations, now you've unlocked a level 4 Dung Beetle Knight called the Old Master. He does have a custom AI deck, and he's got some of the most insane stats I've seen, with 25 toughness. I don't know. However, if you do defeat him, you do get some really cool buffs and bonuses, and if you don't, survivor never returns home, and it's actually quite a touching story. Alright, but now enough depressing shit, what the fuck do you get? Let's go ahead and start with the fighting arts. The fighting arts, you get 2 of them. You get Propulsion Drive and Carapace of Will. Each of these are going to give you a survivor status card at the beginning of the showdown. One is called Momentum, and the other is Steadfast. The Steadfast essentially lets you stand your ground when you get knocked down, and Momentum, if you have 5 of them, you can remove all of them and you get 1d10 plus on strength and luck. And the secret fighting art is, I really like the secret fighting art. Beetle Strength essentially lets you push a piece of terrain all the way to the board edge, and if it collides with anything, they take damage. You're essentially making the terrain work for you as if you were the dung beetle, which is super damn cool. The thing that sucks though is that you do gain 1 hot XP, which, could be good, and you do get knocked down. The disorders, which I also really like, are Vermin Obsession and Motion Sickness. Vermin Obsession is if there's a bug patch during the showdown, you can't spend survival, which is a huge bummer. And Motion Sickness, if you suffer knockback, you gain a bleeding token. Now, the really cool thing about the Dung Beetle expansion is that it kind of lets you upgrade core weapons. The Underground Sow Story event allows you to do 2 different things. You can either prepare the farm or encase and bury, which in this case, let's just focus on encase and bury. Whenever you embalm, you're going to be rolling a d10, of course. You're going to pick an item with the mineral keyword. What this is going to be doing is you're going to be encasing it using a bone and kind of doing like a bone meal kind of thing, encasing it, burying it, and then waiting a specific amount of time and for the next story event to be able to unbury them. Once you unbury them, you're going to flip that side and essentially get a brand new weapon that's super cool and pretty damn deadly. It doesn't have to be a weapon, there can also be armor, which is going to be part of the armor set. You have items like the Digging Claws or the Zanbato, which is super fucking cool, and when you get calcified, those stats are really crazy. That devastating keyword is huge. It's wild. But then there is another item that I also really like, which is called the Regenerating Blade. The Regenerating Blade states that during the settlement phase, if you have a survivor that has a dismembered arm or dismembered leg, you can use the blade to just replace their arm or leg, which is super cool. Additionally, if you calcify it, it becomes a super cool weapon. The Wet Resin Crafter, which you get from defeating the Dung Beetle Knight, also gives you some really cool armors. The entire armor set is based around the ripple pattern ability that you can get. Whenever you get attacked, you can roll a d10, and on a 10 up, you can ignore one of those hits. The remainder of the gear is going to give you additional bonuses to the roll that you get, making it more likely that you ignore one of those hits. And the armor set for completing this armor is if you were to get knocked down, you get knocked back instead. There are also some insane items that you can build, like the Scarab Circlet. If your survival is reduced to 0, gain +1 strength token. Or the Rubber Bone Harness, which once per showdown, you can convert all of your negative tokens into positive tokens, which can be absolutely crazy. And the Rainbow Winged Belt, which if any of your attack rolls are 1, you get to reroll them. And that's essentially it. There's more story events such as plundering the tunnels that the Dung Beetle makes, or the Black Harvest story event, which happens if you were to go to the Harvest route over the Berry route. However, you do need it to be able to unbury. It's a whole thing, but it's a lot of fun. All in all, even though this showdown is incredibly tough, it's a lot of fun. The items that you can get are incredibly supportive to your campaign, the armor set is not too half bad, and the fighting arts can be a huge advantage. For me personally, I like fighting this guy more than I like the items, but that's just me. Even though I might get my ass beat every single time I play with him, he's absolutely a blast and I have a ton of fun. Let me know your opinion on this guy, because for me, he's absolutely fantastic and I don't know why I wouldn't play with him. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.